Welcome back to another episode of The Shop. If you're not subscribed to our channel, I suggest you go and do that right now. If you are, you'll know that behind me is our new Lexus LX470. If you've watched the introductory video for this Lexus, you'll note that one thing that I pointed out is that the roof rack behind me is damaged. In the video footage from our introductory video, you'll see that the previous owner has gone ahead and added a little patch plate to try and hold the roof rack together. What I've done is I've gone ahead and actually removed this little patch plate to reveal the real damage underneath there. As you can see, the roof rack has completely cracked in half and there's absolutely nothing joining the front half to the rear half. You'll see on the other side we've got a crack over here as well where this roof rack is busy cracking. So the whole front end of this roof rack is busy giving in. Now, as I mentioned before, I did contact the manufacturer of this roof rack, Prinsu, who apparently has a lifetime warranty on the roof rack. And we went backwards and forwards over email, and the final conclusion from their side was I need to go and see the vendor who installed this roof rack. Now, as you might know, I did not purchase this roof rack, and I do have the details of the vendor, but I was reading through Prinsu's warranty statement, and what they say is they do not warranty once the first owner passes it on to a second owner. So the long story short is I am without a warranty on this Prinsu roof rack. What we're going to do today is try and repair it as best possible. Right, so what my plan is to take the complete roof rack off and then weld this piece back together again. Now, welding aluminum back together, it'll never be strong enough. So what I'm going to do in addition to just welding it over there is I'm going to make another plate with the same shape as this one, which I'll put behind it, and then weld these two together. That will reinforce this joint over here where it will be weak. So let me hop onto CAD or computer aided design, and I'm going to quickly model up this piece in CAD.
I fired up my CAD or computer aided design. I'm using Onshape, which is available over the internet, and I started to model out the upright of the roof rack. Now I'll take you through step by step what I did. The first thing that I did was this rough sketch over here. And I did this by measuring out the piece that I had in my hand as best possible and then printing this to a 1:1 scale until I had it absolutely exactly perfect. Once it was put out perfectly, I went ahead and added these holes over here, again matching the part that I had in my hand, and then applied the different radii over here until I had this part, and this 1:1 sketch matched exactly with the part in the hand. So I know I had the outline and hole positions correct. From there, I added this little flange over here, and this is the foot piece that mounts to the roof of the Lexus. So all said and done, I had this part which I will use to represent the roof rack going forward. Using this representation that I now had in CAD, I extracted just the front part over here and made this liner or a doubler plate that I intend to weld to the upright of the roof rack. Now you'll see there are a couple of small changes over here. I added a couple of holes and I changed the foot plate to this profile over here. I'll show you in a moment what this is for. And this is the end which I left unfinished. In hindsight, I would have liked to have put a couple of radii on there just to make this part look a little bit neater. But in essence, this is the doubler plate that I intend to use as a weld on to the existing roof rack. So if I go to the assembly over here and I now show you that part, you will see that doubler plate which I have in CAD land welded onto the existing roof rack over here. After spending some time looking at this assembly, I started to see that this looks like a very weak point where it now mounts to the roof. So what I decided to do was to make this little gusset over here. And when you install that little gusset, you'll see that I now have stiffened up this section of the mounting over here. The next thing that I saw was that this point here is going to be quite a high stress location, especially if this front is moving side to side over here. We're going to make that work very hard. So to limit the side to side movement, what I decided to do was to make a little gusset that goes in between the arms of the roof rack. And when you install that onto the assembly, you'll see that I can now stiffen out this section over here and transfer the loads, any lateral loads, all the way through this section over here. So all said and done, this is the aluminum parts that I intend to weld onto the existing roof rack. Now, I seldom do anything without a backup plan, so I was wondering what would happen if I start seeing any cracks on this in the future going forward. And what I've decided to do is to make this stainless steel outer liner, and you can see the profile over here. It's very similar to the others, but if I see cracks starting to appear in the future, what I would like to do is to actually bolt that stainless steel piece onto the outside just for a little bit of added stiffness. Now, I don't believe I need this weight right now, and I think the aluminum will be strong enough, but I do plan to have this part cut, and I'll keep it around just for in case I need it. So once I'm done, these are all the parts that I intend to cut, excluding this representation of the roof rack over here. So I had this all taken into sheet metal flat patterns and then sent out to my laser cutter, and I'll wait now for these parts to all arrive back from my laser cutter.
Right, so our parts have come in from our supplier. If I open up this package over here, you'll see this here are the two weld-on sides that we're going to use to stiffen the existing one. My two brackets, which I want to use to stiffen up the beams on the front. I have outer reinforcements if I need them, and then over here are the gussets that I will use to weld onto this plate so that I can stiffen up the mounting over there. This piece here is used for my bash plates underneath, so not part of this project, but while I was having it shipped I brought that piece in. So we're going to get going with these. The very first thing that I want to check is if these parts actually match up to reality. So did the cartoons match reality? So we'll put that one over there, and here is the actual part, and what you'll see is they match up pretty closely. All of the holes seem to be aligned, so I think I'll be able to get this together. That's a sigh of a relief. Always interesting going from CAD world to reality, but even if we do it this way around, you'll see they still match. This has got these extra holes here where I intend to put bolts through just as an extra measure. So really happy with the way that came out. As you can see, the crack sits just over here. I'll do this. Cracks just over there. So I will be able to reinforce and transfer the loads into the rear as well as into the mounting that's over here. So let's go and see what this looks like on the Lexus. Right, so you'll see that on the Lexus this seems to be more or less in the right position. It's going to be somewhere over there, and seems to line up pretty well. Now that I have all the plates that I need to do this repair, I'm going to go ahead and remove this side panel. So that will entail undoing all of these bolts down the side there, and then undoing all of these fasteners that hold it to the roof so that I can get the side piece out. Once I've got this side piece out, I'm going to start with the repair work that needs to happen. So I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to watch all of the details, but let me get this piece out. With this side of the roof rack on, I can now show you exactly what I'm planning to do to execute this repair. First thing I want to do is take the original piece. I'm going to weld prep over here and then weld those two pieces back together again. Once I've got that done, I'm going to have this doubler plate, which I'll place over there. Now it needs a little bit of grinding. It's not a perfect fit over here. So I'm going to fix it and prepare it well. And once it's there, then I'm going to weld it and seam it all the way around there, around the front. And then I'll put a weld on the back here to transfer the loads back in there. Once that plate's welded on, I'm going to put this little gusset foot on over here and weld it on. That will help reinforce this section over here where the crack is and transfer the loads to the front and the rear. Now this might not be a perfect repair, but I'm going to go ahead and try it in any case. So I've used my grinder to remove all the powder coating from the edges where I will be welding. I've also used this ruler to make sure we're totally aligned over here, that everything is square before I start tacking this together. Now I'm going to take some acetone and clean this before I start welding, just to make sure it's very, very clean. Aluminum likes clean welding. The other thing to note is I am not a welder by trade, and I don't claim to be one. I have taught myself how to weld. I'm going to be TIG welding this together. So those of you who are welders by trade, please don't laugh at my welding. I am confident enough that I'll be able to hold it together. So I'm going to go ahead and start tacking this up. Right, so I've welded this together. It's still hot, I'm not going to touch it. Aluminum welders, you're welcome to critique my weld. I'm confident that it's going to hold together. So I'm going to let this cool down a little bit and go and make myself some rooibos tea, and then I'll get back to the doubler plate. Right, the next thing we need to do is to do final fit. You'll see that there is a slight gap over here. So I want this to move down. It can't move down because it's making contact there. So I'm going to grind this little leg off over here a little bit. You can see that that should be flush over there. So we're going to do some work to make sure that this aluminum plate fits this correctly and is neat. You can see there is how much we need to move down. So I'm going to go ahead and modify this slightly. Right, so I've got this all jigged up now. You'll see that I have been able to get this nicely aligned over here. My holes all aligned. I've got these two bolts holding position over there, so that's correct. I had to make a small modification over here to allow for the bolt heads to sit, because they sit lower than what I was expecting. So this is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but that should be okay. And then over here I needed to make a cutout because of the square cross piece that's sitting over here. So I needed to allow for a little bit of extra room. I thought I had allowed enough room, I did not. So that's a small change that I've made. But with everything in place now, I'm going to go ahead and tack this support onto this plate. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to flip it over and weld on the back end over there to make sure it's properly attached. And I'll have to grind that weld smooth again and then jig it up like it is now before I will do the final weld to weld this piece onto that one. Right, so you can see now I've got this back welded together. I'm going to grind this flush and then do another fit up on my workpiece over there and make sure that this all fits together. And then once we've done that, we'll move on to the next bit of welding. Right, so we've got this welded on. Not the best welds ever, but it's good enough. What I'm going to do now is tack this new plate, the doubler plate, to the original roof rack side over here. I've gone and made sure I've got alignment over here. I'm happy with the fit all the way around. And so I'm just going to tack it in a couple of places and then go ahead and do the full weld all the way around. It's pretty interesting. I've been welding this piece of aluminum over there. I'm not sure if the camera can show you, but the join wouldn't happen over there, and if you look, you can see that there's a crack in the aluminum. So camera's not showing it very well, but you can see the crack there. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this on the side and then just weld up that crack as well. Right, so we finished all the welding and I've dressed it a little bit. You can see the repair joint that was done over there and that crack that I welded up over there. So all back together and busy putting some paint on it. And as soon as this is done, I'm going to put it back on the Lexus and then I'll take the other side off so that I can repair the other side. We finished welding and painting this side plate, so it's ready to go and put back on. Now, one little issue that I did run into is we've added a 4.8mm plate to the surface, and our crossbars attach at these locations over here and this one over here. Now, we don't have that doubler plate at this location. So initially what I thought I was going to do is I was just going to trim the crossbars to make them fit up. However, when I was looking at how this aligns over here, I noticed I'm not going to have enough space to fit a washer on the back end. So I actually need to move this side piece outboard. And the way I think I'm going to do that is I've got this 4.8mm plate here. What I have made are these little spacers over here, and you'll see they're the same thickness as this plate. So I'm just going to add a spacer to each one of the holes down the length of this roof rack side over here and actually space this out. That gives me a 4.8mm extra clearance on these mounting points over here, which is going to be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to go ahead now and reinstall this sidebar. Right, so we've got the crossbars all installed now, and they're all tightened up, and I'm fairly happy this is nice and firm. Now, what I did also decide to do is to add a gusset in between these two crossbars over here, and I've forgotten to put it in. So I'm going to have to undo these bolts right now and then slide that crossbar in, or that gusset in, so that I can stiffen this up. So let me go and put that in quickly and then just see what that does to the structure. Right, like usually happens, nothing goes according to plan. If you look at the back of these screws that I've put in here, there is a square section that helps it catch in the rail to prevent the nut from turning. Now, what's happened is that section is not allowing this rail to close up. So you'll see that there stays a little gap there and a little gap over here, which means that these holes here are now not aligned. So I'm going to have to figure out either countersink this plate to allow that to sit flush, or I am going to have to ream some of these holes to make them move. So I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to get around this problem. So what I've decided to do is to grab my step drill bit, and I'm just going to countersink these holes on this side, and that will give me a little bit of extra space to allow that square section of the nut to sink in over there. So let me go and quickly drill these out, and then I will go and reinstall this bracket. Right, so there you have it. You can see that is where the crack was. That's been repaired. We've got the doubler that runs on the inside, and then we've got this gusset which stops this thing moving sideways. So you can see that if I wiggle this now, it actually rolls the whole car, whereas previously it would go backwards and forwards in this direction, and up and down is also significantly stiffer. So I'm very happy with this repair on this side. We now have to go and remove that side, weld up the cracks, and put the doubler on, and do exactly the same on that side.
The repairs to our Prinsu roof rack are now complete. You'll see our gusset, which I installed on this side as well as on that side, and the results are actually pretty good. You'll see that the roof rack is very stiff. In fact, it wiggles the whole car now, unlike in the past where there was a little bit of flimsiness on this corner over here, and that is true for both up and down and side to side. So all in all, I'm very happy with these repairs. As you've seen in the video, we still have the stainless steel brace plate that I can put on here if I do find any small cracks. I'm especially concerned of cracking from my welding. And if that doesn't work, then unfortunately I'm going to have to replace this entire roof rack. Now, the good news is that we will be putting this roof rack through its paces. In an upcoming episode of the shop, we are going to install a rooftop tent onto here. And once that rooftop tent is on, we're going to hit the trails and do some overlanding. So this roof rack will be really well tested. The repairs will either survive or not, and if they don't, I certainly will make a video showing you where it fails again, and then move on to what my solution will be at that point. Until then, hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please subscribe so you don't miss the installation of the rooftop tent, and yeah, see you around.
I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises, and ruthless.